What has violence ever accomplished? What has it ever created? No martyr's cause has ever been stilled by an assassin's bullet. No wrongs have ever been righted by riots and civil disorders. A sniper is only a coward, not a hero. And an uncontrolled or uncontrollable mob is only the voice of madness, not the voice of the people. Among free men, said Abraham Lincoln, there can be no successful appeal from the ballot to the bullet. And those who take such appeal are sure to lose their case and pay the cost. Violence breeds violence. Repression breeds retaliation. And only a cleansing of our whole society can remove this sickness from our souls. For there is another kind of violence, slower, but just as deadly destructive as the shot or the bomb in the night. This is the violence of institutions, indifference, inaction, and decay. This is the violence that afflicts the poor, that poisons relations between men because their skin has different colors. This is the slow destruction of a child by hunger, and schools without books, and homes without heat in the winter. This is the breaking of a man's spirit by denying him the chance to stand as a father and as a man amongst other men. But we can perhaps remember, if only for a time, that those who live with us are our brothers, and surely we can begin to work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become in our hearts brothers and countrymen once again.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. Hope you guys are all having a great morning. I'm Tabitha Hassell, of course. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Jay Van Brown. Hopefully you guys are having a great morning. Lots to talk about today. I felt that clip was very much needed on a day after looking at some of the files that were released yesterday as part of course, the JFK files. Pretty interesting stuff out there. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of it. Enough. I mean, again, I've seen enough to tell us what we've always thought was actually true. So it's usually how it works, isn't it? But it's good to see that validation, because some of the statements that have been contested over the years were actually proven to be true through some of these documents. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Good morning, Elizabeth and Sherry and Karen. Hopefully you guys are all, again, having a great morning. We might be in for some more severe weather. I'm sure Colonel Joe Adams isn't happy to hear about that. Colonel Joe Adams of the Washington Guard joining us at 8 a.m. Can't wait to talk to Colonel Joe Adams. I want to catch up with the Washington Guard and what they're out doing for the community. Hopefully get his take on these Iranian sleeper cells and some other things that are going on around the country and around the world right now. Some of these things, that's, certainly what we're going to be talking about. The Committee of 300. What is the Committee of 300? Some of you know, some of you don't know. Some people have never even heard of it. And, who did assassinate John Kennedy? I think we all know, don't we? I think we've always known. Good to have that validation. We're going to talk about domestic terrorism here in the United States, running rampant, as always. And, every single thing Donald Trump does, it's blocked by a judge. We know that's their game plan. We've got to find ways to overcome these judge orders. We just have to, because that's their playbook, isn't it? We played that video from Hakeem Jeffries the other day where he said that's their playbook, that they're going to stop it all in the courts. They knew Donald Trump was going to reverse all of Joe Biden's actions, and so therefore they're going to stop it in the courts. They've appointed enough liberal judges to do that. And I think we're going to see some challenges to what exactly is the authority of some of these judges. It's insane. Good morning, Ryan. So much to talk about. So much to talk about today. Zelensky in serious trouble I mean, I've seen what happened overnight. I don't know if you guys have. Zelensky's in a lot of trouble. That guy is just asking. He's just asking for it. And we're going to get into that. There's just so much to talk about. Uh, and what that's about is that, yesterday, I guess you guys know how Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin of Russia had that phone conversation. They agreed on a ceasefire. They agreed on a ceasefire. They said, well, we will make sure we don't attack any energy resources, no infrastructure. Russia shot down their own drones as part of this peace act. And then what happens? Zelensky ordered an attack on a Russian energy facility overnight. So much for that ceasefire. Man, Russia is going to let them have it. They are going to absolutely unleash on them. I have no idea what's going on with Zelensky. He's like the dumbest person on the planet, which no surprise. Jay Van Brown, the trails and the skies were heavy on the northwest side of Lafayette, Indiana yesterday evening. Yeah, I heard I should have played it today. Maybe I will tomorrow. I just heard a speech given by Robert Kennedy Jr. where he's talking about chemtrails and the health of our soil and how if we don't work on the soil in this country, we're going to have some serious problems, which we know is true. If we have healthy soil, guess what? We have healthy humans, right? Because the soil filters the water. That's how we get clean water. The soil filters the water. The earth was made in a way to cleanse itself, but we stop that from happening by, putting all of these different chemicals and pesticides into our agriculture. And then guess what happens? It seeps down in the soil. The water that comes down and seeps into the soil that should be filtered and cleaned is just picking up more harmful contaminants, rushing that out into our rivers, streams, and in oceans. And in the end, it cycles back to us. We only have one body of water. It might be in several different states of composition, but there's only one body of water, and we have to take care of it. And if we take care of the soil, we can take care of the water. I'll have to play that video. I was going to, but I know with Colonel Joe Adams joining us, I didn't prepare a whole lot of things because I really want to talk to him for however much time he has, because there's just so much to talk about today. Good morning, Kim. And for some of you, I don't know how many of you live in O'Fallon, Missouri, but I saw quite a few people posting last night about lights in the skies over O'Fallon. Now, I didn't see a video, but I saw some photos. And it's hard to tell what's going on in a photo, but it was commented on that they looked like drones, and there were many of them. So I don't really know what was going on there with all of the drones over O'Fallon. Were they drones? It was kind of interesting. People were like, I'm seeing UFOs. And then other people were like, no, they're drones. They were very large drones. So, and it wasn't Starlink. As soon as I hear people say, oh, I saw something in the sky, I always think, oh, it's just Starlink. Then I look for photos and videos, and most of the time it is Starlink, but in this case, it definitely was not Starlink. I don't know what all was happening, but there were several lights in the sky and not in a line. They were, kind of haphazardly placed across the sky. So I know it definitely wasn't Starlink, but it was pretty interesting. Good morning, Linda. So keep an eye on that weather just in case anything else is going on. And sorry, I think there's a scammer on our line. I don't know if I can delete that while I'm on here or not. I think I can. I don't like it when scammers come on. Yep, off he goes, off he goes. Just that fast, just that fast. See, I don't need a producer to delete people who are trying to scam folks on the comment line. So these are some of the things we're going to talk about. Before Colonel Joe Adams joins us at 8 o'clock, I want to talk about the situation in Iran, because I think it's going to be relevant to the conversation we're going to have with Colonel Joe Adams. And the fact is that we have to be careful with Iran. I know Colonel Adams is going to say, let's just blast them to smithereens. I don't know. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I have no idea what his take. I don't think he and I have ever talked about Iran before. But one thing that's a big problem in this country is there are hundreds of Iranian sleeper cells in the United States. Hundreds. Daryl, oh, you were at Fort Leonard Wood for a while. Well, you might have a good take on Iran. Good morning, Joe. And the situation, it's going to continue to escalate because, the Houthis have said they are not going to stop attacking American personnel, American ships, until we allow aid through to Gaza. And right now, there is no aid going through to Gaza. And they said, do whatever you want to us. We're just going to continue to fight back. And as I've said over the past couple of days, it's a very precarious situation that we're in my opinion, with Yemen and with the Houthis. The reason why the Houthis exist is because the United States, in somewhat Saudi Arabia, and somewhat because of Israel, because we punish them so severely. And we, under Democrat rule, have been bombing them for well over a decade. I mean, well over a decade. I know in 2015, we partnered with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia was bombing them on our behalf. 300,000, 250, 300,000 Yemenis were killed, between the airstrikes, the bombing, and the famine that took place. They starved to death because they were just not able to function under such heavy, bombardments and sanctions and so on. And when you do something like that, when you oppress a people, when you attack a people nonstop, well, what happens? They rise up against you, don't they? And the Houthis, they've become quite the force. They weren't, of course, because of Iran, they have a lot of weapons that they certainly didn't have. And here we've been striking them, and guess what? They just strike back. They have really come a long way over the years, and we have made them stronger because we continue to attack them and harm the people of Yemen. And I know Donald Trump said, and trust me, how you guys know I love Donald Trump, but I don't agree with the situation that's going on. I don't think we need to fight with Iran. I don't see Iran as being some force that we really have to worry about right now. I think Russia will keep Iran in check, and maybe I'm wrong on that. But what I do worry about is, as this situation continues to escalate, we have hundreds, maybe more, Iranian sleeper cells right here in the United States. And I'll tell you what, how many Iranians have come across our southern border when Joe Biden, of course, opened things wide up. He just allowed all of these different terror organizations to come in. And we have to be very careful. We as Americans, we face a lot of threats right now. We have this war on the cartels going on. I'm hearing reports. I don't know if it's true. I didn't have time to go back and confirm it, that we have a warship heading out into, out towards Mexico. And I don't know why. I don't know if that has to do with the cartels, if it's just a military exercise. I honestly don't know. I know that someone I know who is a reservist for the United States Coast Guard was just called into action. And so there's a lot of different, he's stationed in California. There's a lot of different things going on right now. If you look around and you read the reports, we're heavily involved in a lot of conflict. A lot of that is actually Israel's conflict that we have somehow gotten ourselves involved in, that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with us here in the United States. And I'm kind of wishing that we would just stay out of all of it, quite honestly. I don't, but that's just me talking. I think Donald Trump knows what he's doing. I'm trying to tell myself to trust the process. But think of all the threats that we're facing right now. I just read there's around 200,000 Ukrainians here in the United States that work for the Ukrainian secret police. So we have these people in our country who a lot of people don't think about Ukrainian forces as being, so skilled in combat and terror type actions as what they really are. I remember before this incursion took place with, Russia going into Ukraine, one of the bigger things that I had talked about in the past is some of the paramilitary operations that take place in Ukraine, and how these people train mercenaries all across the world. And they're very brutal. And here we're, according to a lot of reports, we have 200,000 or more of these Ukrainian folks working directly, for the Ukrainian secret police. And they're ready to act if they must here in the United States. We have hundreds of Iranian sleeper cells. We have cartel members here in the United States, not to mention, let's say, ISIS or the Army of Islam or the Salafis or some of these other Sunni terror groups. How many people really kind of makes you think, you look around your community, how many people are here, just waiting for the call to harm us. It's really kind of scary when you think about it. We've made a lot of enemies over the years, and those enemies, they're here in our country. And these are not people who are, yet deported, because it's not like we can just easily find them. It's not a situation like Tren de Aragua where we pretty much know where they all are. Well, we're going to get into that later, Tren de Aragua, because of see, this is where those judges' orders, I think, kind of mess with national security, and we'll get more into that later. But now we've had to disclose publicly where all the Tren de Aragua gang members are and how many there are still in this country. And there's quite a few. Quite honestly, there's quite a few, and nothing unmanageable. But how many sleeper cells are there? We're talking thousands of various enemy sleeper cells right here in our country, spread out in all of our different cities and our different communities. And it is a worry, as these conflicts escalate in other lands, then we certainly have to worry. These people, they're here for a reason. They're just waiting for that call. Their whole lives are spent just waiting to become a martyr and to kill Americans. And they're just waiting for that call that, okay, today's the day, that we really escalate things to a certain degree. And, I've said this and talked about this many times in the past. There's probably more sleeper cells here now than what there ever were, just because of Joe Biden leaving the doors wide open for literally anyone to come in. And according to, of course, Venezuela's president, Maduro, Joe Biden asked him to send their most violent gang members here to the United States. He wanted them to come here. So then you have to think, well, what else was Joe Biden doing? Was he also talking to some of these other countries? Was he like Afghanistan? Because we've continued to fund Afghanistan despite the cruelty that's taking place there. We are funding under Joe Biden, a lot of different terror organizations. So did he make deals with some of these people to bring them here into our country? Or I should say, did his auto pen make deals to bring some of these people here into our own country? Who's really, running the White House is a good question to ask. Good morning, Tammy Jerry Hoover. Good morning, Rob. Just a couple more minutes here. We'll have Colonel Joe Adams joining us. Can't wait to talk to him because there's a lot going on, and I don't like any of it. I really don't like any of it. Again, I support Israel wholeheartedly, the people of Israel. I don't want to fight their battles. I don't want to fight the battles of anyone. It doesn't matter what country it is. I don't want to get involved in their battles. And if it were up to me and you gave me a list of potential conflicts we could get involved in, I would probably choose Syria, because over in Syria, we have a situation which even CNN has had to call out, in which Christians are being tortured and murdered, and where we have a group of Sunni jihadis running around Syria clapping and celebrating at the deaths of Christians. But we're not lifting a single finger to help any of those Christians over in Syria. We're not doing a darn thing to help these people who are being slaughtered. But here we are over in Yemen, fighting people we've already fought to the death. I am surprised there's anybody left in Yemen, quite honestly, because I figured we probably killed them all, most of them anyway. So it's a crazy situation. I'll never understand the war complex. I know it's necessary for us to survive and for our country to be powerful, but it's a really difficult situation to think, do you want to be in war? Whether that war is with Ukraine, against Ukraine, whether it's against Western Europe, who is, again, very quickly becoming the enemy, whether it's against the cartels in Mexico. I'm all for war against the cartels, not the Mexican people, but the cartels. I'm all for war against the jihadists. But what are we doing? Really, what are we doing? Why are we involved? Why are we still policing the world? I really hope that Donald Trump would create peace. And maybe you have to battle certain elements to create the peace you're looking for. That's not my place to say. I honestly don't know. But what I do know is I don't want our children to go and fight in these battles over power and greed. I don't want it to happen. I just don't want it to happen. And I would really like to know who Donald Trump is getting his military advice from. I would really like to know. And Colonel Joe Adams, he's going to be joining us here in like literally 1 minute. He's probably sitting back saying, Tabitha, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. Donald Trump is absolutely right in going after the Houthis and going after Iran. And I will say that anytime, it doesn't matter who they are, if they're attacking Americans and American military, American personnel, we absolutely have to fight back. No question about it. I just don't want to see things escalate too far. But the Houthis are going to continue their attacks until we provide aid to Gaza. They have said that. Let's just give some aid to Gaza, which we should be doing anyway. And then let's stop these crazy attacks. All right, we're going to bring Colonel Joe Adams in of the Washington Guard to join us. Can't wait to talk to him. It looks like he's ready to go back here. Colonel Joe Adams, good morning. I absolutely love your patriotism. Look at that beautiful outfit. Stars and stripes. How are you doing this morning?
Well, these are my pajamas. So I'm 24/7. Hey, good morning. Been busy around here. I've kind of been out on out of the loop, except for getting messages from the Phoenix 13 think tank. Um, yeah, no, you're not totally wrong, but you're close. You're close you're on target, Tabitha. Don't worry about that. Uh, we've been involved here in Franklin County with the storm cleanup, of course, and haven't touched my place yet. I've got 8 trees down out front
Oh my
that got
God.
to be dealt with. But that's take care of the neighbors first. Those trees aren't going anywhere, obviously. So I was forced to deploy the Washington Guard this week because of all the destruction, and it's much worse than what people know. I would say 500 times worse. I mean, we got hit hard, and there's buildings that aren't there anymore. They just vanished. And so we're doing what we can. We're basically down there trying to clean up the mess and help the community, working through the sheriff's department, coordinate our efforts with them. So it's been real successful, and we'll be out there again today. Uh, Probably this will continue on for several weeks, but to correct what happened out here in Franklin County is going to take up to a year. It's really bad, but that's okay. We nobody got hurt, nobody got killed. We had one of the more interesting ones right after the storm. I got tips there was a huge collapsed building down off Highway 50 owned by some elderly people, and I went down and talked to them. They were kind of difficult to talk to because I mean they're like the Walking Dead. They were in shock, and all of their possessions and trucks and things like that were trapped under the roof inside a collapsed building. And so I pulled some of my more skilled guys out and set them down there, and they raised the roof, and they were able to get all their merchandise and their vehicles and tractors out of the shed so they can continue the cleanup. But it's a mess. But these people, it's not that the county's not out there helping everybody. It's just there's so much of it, and that's how the Washington Guard started. When these things happen, how can you have too much help?
That's
And
right.
right, and it's actually bringing us into the uh, emergency response community team with the sheriff's department. Wasn't my idea at all. We were basically standing prepared, ready for civil unrest or whatever because of the Biden administration. But then we morphed into this community project, and it's been real successful. And most of my people are still employed, but the ones that are able to help and show up, like even for this weekend, they're amazing people. Nobody asked for anything, and these people that they help raise the roof on the building to get their vehicles out were just. When I went back and after the construction was done, which by the way took about 5 hours, and it was taken care of. Uh, you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say?
Me, the cat, or me, the cat.
The cat, the
I'd
cat.
like to hear a few. I'd like to hear a few meows.
Hey, you people think that I got cats all over the place. No, those cats are never in this office until I get on this show, and here they come. So I
How
guess
many cats do you have? Two?
actually two, and it seems like 40 sometimes. They're everywhere.
I
So
love it. We love seeing your cat. Colonel Adams, how exactly does deployment work with the Washington Guard? I know that you do so much work in your community. I thought about you when these storms were going through because I saw them coming through your area. When I was watching, of course, the trajectory. And are people just waiting on call? I mean, I guess anytime a storm happens, they know that there's a possibility they could be called out.
yeah, I put out a standby, knowing bad weather's coming. Just stand by and pay attention. First rule of thumb: if any guard members are directly hit and need help immediately, of course we go there as a family and take care of them first. Unfortunately, most of our people had minor damage, like my house, my property. Even Allison, she got hit with a little bit of damage. So after the guards settled, and then I go out and evaluate the situation, no matter what it is, and then we put out times of deployment and where we're gonna be working. So it's very simple. I mean, we're extremely organized. We have an emergency text message that goes out, and no problem. I mean, what seems very complex to some people, I mean, I've been through this so many times in so many countries that it's just another day. Put it that way. It's just another day.
It is amazing, though, what you guys are doing for the community. I know everyone is so thankful. You know, it's so amazing that you guys are ready to go. They're trained. You know, I love the Washington Guard. I was just talking about you guys yesterday and how, you know, I just love having you on the show because there's always, you know, just the background of the Washington Guard and everything that you guys do for the community, you know, and this is just in times of need. Wait till things get really bad. And then when they really see you guys kick into gear.
Well, that's what we train for. I mean, basically, our skills, everything that's necessary, like with the sheriff's department's emergency response team, everything that they need. Plus, we also have a team. You know, the military branch of our team has to pass all the requirements for law enforcement and their skill level. So when we interact with them, I'm not saying we're well. You know, I'll just say it. We have higher level of skills than a lot of the police do, which is not that difficult. So everything here is fine. Like I say, just another day. We'll get past this. Hopefully, the weather will leave us alone so we can complete our mission. So now, how long we're going to be deployed, that will be up to me, because I constantly evaluate where we're at, what we're doing. I did pull a few tricks to get the thing moving a little quicker. It's not that I told the bulldozer guys that I was with the sheriff's department. I just said I'm working in conjunction with the sheriff's department, and actually took them from one job site to another to complete it. Because a lot of things, what we do is gather all the material, the scrap, the wood, whatever, and stage it, and then come back and pick it up. But the winds are picking up out here again, and I don't want to have these people's all these efforts go, scattered again. And so we try and clean up the mess as fast as possible and get rid of it so it doesn't come back to haunt us. But we're fine out here. Don't worry about Franklin County. We got the guard. We're good. And the people's response has been really overwhelming. It's something that really feels good to help someone, and that's what this is all about. We don't get paid, so that's okay.
All volunteer efforts, and Colonel Adams, it is the work you do is absolutely amazing, and these storms are scary. Now we're at another possible some more severe risk here in our areas. I saw a weather report yesterday for my own area, and I had no idea that I knew that we had a tornado, but it passed. I don't know, maybe two houses. I don't know how to describe the land since this is more of a rural area. But if you consider it like a one block area, it passed right past us, and it is pretty crazy. And it's kind of scary when you start thinking about it, how dangerous the weather can be. And, unfortunately, I don't have a Washington Guard here. I'd be in a lot of trouble if something happens.
What's really amazing was after I viewed the damage, and I've been all over the county, I just can't believe nobody got killed.
In your county, yes. 12, I believe over 12 people in the state of Missouri were killed. But yeah, I don't think there were any in your county.
No, not my area, not my area of operation. So everything's fine. What I didn't see the byproduct of what was going on out here. When I only started this militia, and make no mistake about it, we are a legitimate, organized militia. And I basically thought about the same thing as civil unrest and things going to happen. And we needed to assist the law enforcement, and because of my reputation, I guess, law enforcement brought us in and said, sure, whatever you need, we'll work with, but we need certain requirements. And so we did that. Like I said before, we're even a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Now, how many militias are members of the Chambers of Commerce? But what happened was then the average people started coming to me and saying, I've never been in the military, but I teach emergency room nursing. Oh, really? You teach nursing emergency room? You're in. I'm a veterinarian. I'm not a military, but I know a lot about small animals and large animal medicine. Well, you're in. I own a lumber company, a lumber yard. You're in. I'm a doctor. You're in. I'm a retired fireman. You're in. So all these people from all these different occupations join the Guard. And so when something comes up, I just go into the list and say, okay, send it to him, let him take care of it. So it's worked out. So what has actually happened, because all these people really didn't know each other, but they've been brought together under one umbrella to help the community. It's like Donald Trump Jr. said, we need 1,000 more Washington Guard.
Right.
So it worked out. But my motivation was not organizing the community. My thing was I had to obtain a defensive posture, because I lived at like the corner of Clayton and Hanley, and in case of like Ferguson was a wake-up call. I mean, I could only protect that property for a limited time, so I had to move out here. And since I'm moving out here, people came to me and said, maybe Colonel, you could start a militia. And I go, well, go ahead. And they said, no, we want you to start it. And I said, okay. And that's how it started, and it's grown from there. It's a really good idea.
It's a fantastic idea. I'm so glad you did. And, Colonel Adams, the story for another day, but I remember the day I met you in Deanna. I didn't even know who you were or what was going on or your background. It was a mutual friend had a party, like an afternoon party, and I met you both there. And I remember talking a little bit about politics that day, and I was thinking, man, this guy really knows what's going on. And I don't often meet people who really know what's going on. And I never forgot it. Then Vic, of course, my former co-host, brought you up, and I thought, wait a minute, I know that guy. I still remember the day I met you and Deanna over there at your old neighborhood. It's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Way back in the day.
Yeah. So we've come a long way since then. I never thought when I met you that I would end up in Franklin County in Washington, Missouri, commanding a militia. I didn't see that coming. So
I never saw myself living out in the country with chickens either. So I get it. Things change.
Yeah. Hey,
yes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. I wanted to first of all say that we're speaking with Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. For those watching, you can see the ticker going across the bottom. If you want to reach out to them, do that at WashingtonGuard.com.
That's it. Enough of the Washington Guard stuff. Hey, this SpaceX thing was quite a deal. I see how the Democrats are trying to, just say, whatever. But I look for little things that are ironic, and I don't know how many missions went to the International Space Station before they were finally rescued. But I don't know if people realize that on some of those flights in meetings on that ship prior to the rescue were Russian cosmonauts.
Yes.
Define irony. Here we are running a proxy war against Russia, but not really anymore during the Biden administration. Right. Trump's going to that'll all be straightened out within the next 30 days, by the way. So
once we heard of Zelensky,
we're providing weapons to bomb Russia at the same time their cosmonauts are on our flights. Define irony. I don't know. Yeah. It's always been that way.
Space.
Yeah,
they all just have to get along up there.
Right. Yeah, you better get along up there. The Democrats, I know what they're thinking. Now, this is horrible thing for me to say, and I've said worse, but the Democratic Party hoped that the mission would fail and those people would be killed.
Yes.
That's evil.
Absolutely true. I'm surprised the judge didn't order the mission to stop, because God forbid Elon Musk was involved.
Yeah. I mean, on the national poll, the Dems are down to 21% in favor of the Democratic Party. I like to know who this 21% is. What a bunch of idiots. It should be minus 21%.
I've heard that too. I've heard fluctuating numbers between 7 to 7% approval, 25% approval. It's really bad. I will tell you that. It is really bad, the approval ratings.
And they continue on the same path. So what's happened to the Democratic Party, which has been going for a long time, but it's just now become visible because of Donald Trump, that the Democratic Party is a fundamentally corrupt organization. And also in my heart, when we're done deporting all of the gangbangers, we ought to deport the rest of the Democrats. they're just as bad. So they're a corrupt organization. I mean it. Get rid of them.
I
I'm
hope
sick of
they join us. How about that? I hope they join us. I hope they see the writing on the wall and they join us. And, with all of the increasing escalation, that's taking place around the world, where do Democrats fall in the mix? Do they want war? Do they want peace? Are they going to push for war? Or are they going to push for peace? We don't know what direction they're going to go in at this time. And I think that Donald Trump is looking for war with other factions that of course Democrats wouldn't want to target. So it's kind of interesting how all that plays out.
Well, President Trump portrays himself as the peace president, and he is. But there's also a thing called peace through superior firepower. Don't be surprised at this. Now the ceasefire is over in Gaza. Of course, it was never totally over. Don't be surprised if President Trump doesn't launch an aerial assault on Gaza and just finish the job. Dragging these things out, more people die. Now, I could care less about the Palestinians. I mean, they're the scourge of the planet. Nobody wants them. But don't be surprised if he's forced into a situation or develops a situation to where we launch an all-out airstrike maybe for 72 hours and just finish the job.
But what does finishing the job look like? We talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday. Hamas, it's impossible to weed out a group like Hamas, just like it's impossible to weed out a group like the Houthis. They are the people are them. So you can't just say, well, we're going to go in and take out Hamas without literally killing everyone. So what exactly does finishing the job look like?
Arc light, a bomb on every square inch or miles square. Part of the definition of war, and I know this quite well, is killing one's enemy. And when it comes to women and children, that's a terrible, terrible thing. But understand they're women and children, part of a terrorist organization, and the children are future terrorists. I don't want to say what's in my heart. All I care is about the United States of America. I don't care about anybody else. I'm a former Marine. I say kill them all, let God sort them out. I don't really care. I don't really care. If you're my enemy, I will kill you. Period. That's just the way it is. Maybe that's the old Marine in me, but that's the way it is.
Well, I mean, obviously,
no prisoners. No.
We have to have a stance for America first. There's no question. And even myself, as much as I hate war, and I don't want to think about killing innocent people, but at the same time, I know number one is protecting us, protecting our homeland, protecting our families. That has to be number one. But how far do we go to protect our families? And then, Colonel Adams, I don't know if you heard this part of the show this morning. I was talking about sleeper cells. Here in the United States, we have an estimated 200,000 plus Ukrainians here in the United States who work for the Ukrainian secret police, who are definitely feel that they themselves are the enemy of the American people. We have cartels scattered around our country. We have jihadi terrorists scattered around our country. We have allegedly hundreds of Iranian sleeper cells in our country. It's like, I feel like everywhere you turn, there's somebody there waiting to harm us.
You're right. Unfortunately, yeah, you're totally right. I worked with the ATF a while back on some supposedly Iranian terrorists. Okay. And what we found out that somehow through Saudi Arabia, a lot of these people are carrying Saudi Arabian passports and IDs. So they present themselves as Saudi Arabians because that's an accepted Islamic visitors or workers in this country. Iranians are not. But Saudi Arabia is somehow connected to that. I mean, don't forget, they're all Muslims to begin with. So we got some real problems. I've said for the last 15 years that we should turn Iran into a parking lot. And of course, nobody would do that. But if we do end up hitting Iran, which I don't think we're going to right now, I think Iran sees the writing on the wall. I don't think we're going to have to. But of course, we can't allow them to have a nuclear weapon. I mean, I listened to politicians up to 2 years ago saying, "Oh yeah, Iran's two weeks away from developing a weapon." Now,
they've been saying that for years.
It's that 2 week thing's been going on. Yeah, it does. I mean, how? And these guys that are talking, how do you know? How do you know it's 2 weeks? So
Yeah.
when you do stupid statements like that, just ignore it. But yeah, we
Well,
do.
those are people who want war with Iran, and I agree with you, Colonel Adams. I think I think you probably heard us talking before you came on that the Houthis have said the only thing they want is they want aid to be taken into Gaza. That's all they want. As soon as the aid goes into Gaza, they're going to stop, attacking our military personnel. But we crossed the line too. We sunk, a Iranian intelligence ship, and that's kind of a escalation on our part.
Good. That'll sink them all.
Yeah,
You know,
no, agreed. Yes,
yeah, these clowns have been shooting at us from different directions for a couple
a
of years
long
now.
time.
But
A
here
long
I got a message for all them Houthis and Wooties and whatever the hell they are. You shoot at me, I'll kill you, and that's Donald Trump, and he knows.
Yes.
There's been like over 120 attacks on our military personnel and our ships over there. Really, we can track all of that. With Donald Trump in office, you shoot at me, and I'll kill you.
And that's a good motto to have. And I hate it for the people of Yemen. Those people have suffered so horrifically. But at the same time, when we have the Houthis firing at our troops, at our ships, there's something that we just have to do. We have to retaliate. And I guess we'll see, what happens if we send in the aid to Gaza, which so far we're not doing and we've not agreed to do. And Israel has so far forbade any aid going in to help the people of Gaza. So I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't know where all this is going. But what concerns me more though is those sleeper cells, because I always feel like they're all just waiting for that call. Their entire lives are about getting that call. They want to be a martyr. They want to fight for their country because that's how they die a martyr and go to their kingdom. And so I think that they're all trigger happy to some degree.
Well, yeah, but that's all they've got. If you remove that form of their government or their community, what else? So they can steal them and use them against us.
Right.
So my father, who was a union organizer back in the 50s, he said, the only true diplomacy is when you take your 45 and stick it to your enemy's head and cock the hammer and say, now this is what we're going to do. And that's Donald Trump. So we need to hit them so hard that everybody will even be scared to deal with the United States. And that's called global supremacy. If that's what it takes, it doesn't matter. But also strategic respect. Donald Trump's brought back strategic respect, and he knows that's the best. That's the best thing. Like firepower. They've got to be. I'd rather have somebody hate me and be scared of me than like me.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And again, as much as I hate war and I hate the industrial war complex and I hate the money that's made through war, at the same time, it's absolutely necessary for our national security. And I'm always thinking in my head, like, how far, am I willing to go in my thoughts that I'm okay with what we're doing to other countries? And I think we're doing sometimes a lot of terrible things under Democrat rule, mostly. But I do wonder sometimes, as much as I support Donald Trump, I'm always thinking, well, who is advising him on these situations? Because, I support Israel. I support the Israeli people, of course. I don't like Netanyahu. I don't like the leader of any country. So it's not, not that I'm picking on him. I don't like any of them because I think they're all involved in using their own people as pawns. But I do wonder why we're getting so involved with all of the Israel's targets, which of course is Iran and the Houthis and some of the Kurds and things over in Syria. It seems like we're kind of right hand in hand. And now I hear we're trying to wage war against China, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. But I do we trust the process? Is that how we just have to think of things?
Yeah, from the intelligence community to you people watching this show, forget China. Forget
I agree.
China.
Yeah.
China is no threat. And that comes from the best intelligence gathering minds in the country that I deal with. Just forget China. They're not a threat. Concentrate on the problems we've got. with the Muslims. They're the real problem, and they're a sleeping giant also.
No question about it.
Yeah, yeah. So right now, there's a lot of Democrats, the corrupt organizations, sweating bullets because Bongino is in the FBI and he's already got a list. So
Yes, it does.
like, this is how corrupt they are. That they want to get rid of Chuck Schumer now because he voted for the budget, right? So look how devious they are. They wanted the government to shut down because it makes Donald Trump look bad. So at all costs, whatever damage they can do to their own citizens to make Donald Trump look be a mercenary. The Democratic parties are a bunch of corrupt mercenaries. They're based on corruption. But here's my favorite line of the week. Of all these things that are going on, plus the emergency response here, and the one thing that sticks out in my maybe sometimes juvenile brain was the comment from the president of El Salvador back to that federal judge. And so when he tried to pass these orders down, a 79-page order saying to stop the flights and turn the planes around and come home, and Donald Trump went ahead and landed them anyway, unloaded the criminals, and the president of El Salvador's comment was, "Oops, too late." I love that. I wish I would have said that. Too late. That's the comment of the week. Of all the other things I'm involved in, that's the one thing that really impressed me.
I am with you on that. That is great. And I'm going to show you something, Colonel Adams. I know we don't have a ton of time left. I want to throw in my favorite comment. You got to see this for just a second.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process.
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
I love that man, Tom Homan. Absolutely love him. Great quote as well.
When he's at the Republican National Convention, his opening line was, he would say, "How you doing?" So he wanted to make sure they understood. I'm just an old. Was he from New Jersey? New Jersey cop. Yeah. How you doing? So he's my kind of guy.
Mine too. I absolutely love him. Colonel Adams, what do you think about all these judges blocking every single one of Donald Trump's orders? I mean, I was trying to go through the list early this morning, and I'm like, I think every order Donald Trump has issued, they have blocked.
Of course they have, and they know they're wrong, but they're all Biden and Obama appointed judges. What do you expect? Donald Trump knew this was coming, and they're going to continue doing it. And he's going to continue ignoring them. And then they're going to try. They're already talking about impeach. Well, let them keep running their mouth, okay? This country's in much better shape in a month than it has been the last 4 years.
Gas prices are $3.
But I still say this: they got to kill Donald Trump. They got to kill him. And now, that's a horrible thing to say, but how are you going to stop him if you don't kill him?
It's on their mind. I mean, they've already tried a couple of times. Elon Musk, and look what they're doing to him. All these domestic terrorists going into his Tesla dealerships. Just yesterday in Las Vegas, there was a group that came in and shot guns. They fired upon Teslas and then set them on fire. These people are domestic terrorists, and I don't understand why we're not rounding them up in the same way they rounded up the J6ers.
Yeah. They'll get around to it. That's okay. These people.
We will definitely get around to it.
All this is a spin-off of the Democratic mentality. They fight, never get along, and they know they're losing. They're desperate. They're treading water. And how long can you tread water for? I happen to be an expert on that. So anyway, they're just treading water. They don't know what they're doing. So anyway, nothing's going to change. It's like I say, it's a fundamentally corrupt organization, just with the word Democrat in front of it. That's all. Period.
It is. And you're right. Nothing is going to change. It's mental illness, I think, on a lot of the parts. I know people who are Democrats some of them are very good people. And then I know some Democrats who are super liberal, and they have literally lost their minds. I know of one very liberal person who hates Donald Trump so much that they are going to counseling 3 times a week just to be able to simply live their lives. Since he's been elected, they've been sitting at home crying every day. To me, that's called severe mental illness.
Yeah, yeah, it's a definition of the Democratic Party, severe mental illness. Uh, that thing about Schumer, they're trying to get him to step down. There's an old saying with that situation with Schumer. Now I know why tigers eat their young. And if you don't know what that means, is when a tiger finds one of her cubs that is not physically able or there's a problem with it, the tiger kills the cub. And so the Democratic Party redefines why tigers eat their cubs is because they're going after Schumer now, and I think it's quite comical. This is entertaining to me just to watch these people scramble, run in circles, and stab each other in the back. I like
And
it.
they're, and wait till we start those, there's an investigation already underway trying to uncover all of the members of Congress, all of the members in the government in whatever position they might be in who have received kickbacks. Just wait until we see that information.
Yeah, there's a lot of Democrats losing sleep right now, and Republicans too.
And Republicans, yeah, absolutely. And Republicans, the Republican Party I'm not a Republican, by the way. I say that a lot. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not an independent. There is no party affiliation that I feel like I belong to. But I'll tell you what, Republicans in Congress, 99% of them are just as bad as Democrats.
I agree.
And I want to see that. I want to see them held accountable just as much as I do the Democrats who have stolen money from all those NGOs. They're held by Republicans too. It's not just Democrats. They've all stolen. They all knew where the auto pen was, didn't they?
No, the auto pen. Yeah, I love that. You saw that cartoon that came out on the internet of all the presidents of the United States, right up to Donald Trump in the second term, and the
Yes.
picture before Donald Trump, instead of Biden, it was the auto pen. I like that.
Did you, I wish I would have saved it for this morning. I'll have to play it tomorrow. Did you guys, Colonel Adams, did you see the video of Hunter Biden that he's posting all over social media where he's just walking in a circle? He's looking pretty darn bad. And nobody knows what he's doing. I think he's trying to show people that, look, there's no Secret Service. I have no security around me. I don't know. It's one of the strangest videos I've ever seen posted. And now we find out that he may have signed his own pardon with the auto pen. The world has gone absolutely mad. I guess he dropped his cocaine in the White House, when he was doing it. But the world has just gone crazy.
Yeah, Secret Service protection for him. Yeah, right. Okay. All those millions of dollars that the Biden family scammed, let them spend some of their own money. So anyway,
That's right.
I like him living in misery. He deserves everything he's getting.
I bet he doesn't have anyone to sell paintings to anymore.
Oh, what a trip! What a shipwreck! Can you imagine if that was the Trump family of everything that they did, what they would use against him, and now they found out the Trump family's totally squeaky clean. That's hate right. That. They hate that. I say take no prisoners when it comes to Democrats. And I'm going to have to hit the road. We're deployed, and we got to meet at 1000 hours this morning. Thanks to all the Guard out there that shows up for work. This will continue. My first responsibility to this country is this community, and we go from there. One thing we talked about a lot about self-defense, and especially the ladies. Big self-defense martial arts seminar May 29th in Des Peres. You can go to the Washington Guard website and get that information. But believe me, girls, take the time out to do something with situational awareness and physical abilities to take care of yourself, because someplace, sometime, you're going to be on your own. And that's what we teach. What do we do to survive when you're on your own? Hey, God bless you, Tabitha. God bless all your followers. And it's time for the Colonel to go to work.
Bless you also, Colonel Adams, and all of the Washington Guard. If you guys want to reach out to Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard, WashingtonGuard.com. There was a big boom behind me. I don't know what that was. Anyway, thank you, Colonel Joe Adams, for joining us. We love to have you on the show. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Thank you. Join the Guard and you'll never be alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Adams. Have a great day. Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. I don't know. There's something going on behind me. I don't know what it is. Maybe a bird hit the window or something. There's a big boom behind me. And I'm like, what in the world is that? Somebody climbing in the window? I don't know what's happening back there, but either way, so happy to have Colonel Joe Adams joining us this morning. Always happy to have his opinion on so many different topics, so many different topics. I know he's the man in with the know, right? Lots more to talk about. I wanted to make sure we talked about those sleeper cells because I'll tell you, it's not untrue that wherever you may go, you're probably encountering some of these people that belong to one of these sleeper cells, whether that's Ukrainian or whether that's Iranian or whether it's some type of jihadist movement. The cartels, they're around. They're in most of your communities, and you've got to really keep an eye on your surroundings. And I do believe in safety in numbers, and I do wish that there was a Washington Guard in every single community. But you could start your own similar situation. You can start your own militia. It's our guaranteed right under the Constitution. And on Friday, I said yesterday, I'm going to talk about this. On Friday, I want to talk a little bit about that. About when I first wanted Colonel Joe Adams to come on some of these shows with me, the response that I had, about having a militia come on a show with me and talk. And I think that, I persevere trying to make sure I keep him on because it's a right guaranteed to us by our Constitution. The word militia shouldn't be scary or terrifying by any means. Look what they're doing. They're out helping people who desperately need help, in cleanup efforts. And thank God in the Franklin County area, they, didn't lose any lives in Colonel Joe Adams' community, but there were lives lost across the state of Missouri, all across the country. And these, storms are a very serious situation. We're in the middle of storm season and we've got to be prepared. Everyone should know where in your home you have to go. I always think an interior closet, interior bathroom, but I'm sure I'm not the expert on severe weather, but that's where I would go. And here I say that, and here I found out a tornado passed by my house, very, very, very close. And it was 400 feet wide, which means it probably actually was just an EF1, that it probably went over my house. My chicken run which is metal, by the way, is bent, broken on the top. It's still fine. It'll be fine. But it was picked up and completely moved. The coop was perfectly fine. The coop is on concrete. It didn't even budge. But the run was literally picked up and lifted up over logs and other things that were inside the run. And it was a pretty serious storm. And I hate it that people had to lose their lives. It's Mother Nature, man, it's fierce. And, we've got to be careful. And, here I was standing outside through a lot of the storm out on the back sun, patio or on the, as a matter of fact, right after it hailed. And of course, the first thing I did was run outside to take a look at everything and grab some hail. We've got to take these storms a little bit more seriously. I'm going to try to turn that ticker off here. Lots more to talk about. We've got, I want to talk about the Committee of 300. I think we all know what that is. Good morning. Let's see here, Larry. Larry, I don't care if they lose everybody in their nation as long as Israel. You want Israel to be destroyed, Larry? I don't want any people to be destroyed. I don't. I want all. I feel like I'm such a humanitarian that I don't want to harm people. I wish there were ways we could do things and establish certain strategic moves without taking a single life. But unfortunately, there are a lot of barbarians in this country who continue to take lives. And, we were talking about the aid going to Gaza. The Houthis, they claim they're not going to stop attacking U.S. military, our warships, until we send aid into Gaza. And I want to clarify, the aid that they're looking for is not military aid. They're looking for food, water, medications, and there was something else, food, water, medications. Maybe that was it, just supplies, necessities to survive on. They're not looking for money or military aid. They just want food to get to those people and medications, and hundreds, allegedly over 400 lives lost in Gaza in these recent strikes. And, there's, while we're at it, I'll just cover this and then we'll move on because I want to talk about the Committee of 300 and the JFK files. And if you started out at the beginning of the show, I played that clip of John Kennedy talking about assassinations and that type of thing in the enemy. And it was a pretty interesting clip. If you can, go back and watch that. I'll probably post it on social media separately later on. So we're going to jump into that. But I want to do this first. I want to very, very briefly talk about what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, because we know that Donald Trump yesterday And he's going to be very angry today. He's going to be so angry. We know yesterday Donald Trump had that call with Putin, President Putin, of course, when President Trump on the phone talking about a peace deal. Russia took this peace deal very seriously. They actually shot down their own drones. They had hundreds of drones in the skies and they shot them down, their own drones, their own military equipment, because they agreed to the ceasefire. And they said that there would be no destruction, no attacks on energy facilities or infrastructure. And then what do you think happens? What do you think happens? Zelensky orders an airstrike against a energy facility in Russia. And now granted, Ukraine never agreed to this peace deal. This was Russia trying to establish peace, a broker deal between President Trump and President Putin. Zelensky had never agreed to this, but this just goes to show that Zelensky does not want peace. He does not want peace. He's very angry. He wants to be included into the talks, but yet refuses to talk to Putin. And man, Trump is not going to be happy today that he worked out this deal. And then the first thing Zelensky does, and he did it in spite, was to attack a Russian energy facility, exactly what the peace deal was about. And he's also made another statement that he will not give at all when it comes to any of the Ukrainian territory. He is not giving 1 inch to Russia. So we're not going to see peace anytime soon between Russia and Ukraine unless they remove Zelensky. And of course, part of that deal, the peace deal, is that Zelensky does have to allow elections to take place in Ukraine. And we all know that as soon as an election is done, he's out. He's done. Not going to happen. But now I have a feeling there's going to be other thoughts on Donald Trump's mind today about how do we get rid of Zelensky, because he's never going to allow this peace deal to happen. And I'm going to tell you one thing, and you know how Donald Trump is. He is going to work this peace deal out with or without Zelensky. So something is going to happen to Zelensky. I don't know what that is, but something's going to happen to that man because he was very defiant in what he just did. And it's not going to go over well. It happened in the middle of the night, our time. So I haven't seen any coverage of it yet, but you're going to. Mary, I can't stand Zelensky. Neither can I. He's just a big puppet, just a puppet. Just a puppet. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the JFK files. I've looked through them and I didn't read all of them. I read, I think, the most important ones. And, what we can take from that is just like we always thought, the CIA, of course, was involved in the assassination of John Kennedy. We've always known that. We've always known that. I believe most of us have always known that. We've always known that Harvey Oswald was the fall guy. I think most of us knew that. I still haven't been able to quite decipher if there was more than one shooter. It sounds, based on what little I have read, that there was more than one shooter. It's difficult to prove that. But there was a couple things that, to me, that really stood out more than anything. And I'm going to read one of these statements to you. And some of you have probably already seen this because it was one of the larger, statements that came out of this. And this was in regard to a guy named John Garrett Underhill Jr. Some people call him, I don't know why, sometimes he's called John Garrett Underhill. I've heard other articles referring him as Gary Underhill. So maybe Gary from Garrett, maybe Gary was his nickname, but his real name was John Garrett Underhill. And what he did, and this is exactly what the document reads, he is the person who went and told, he was scared, he was part of the CIA, one of their operatives in the CIA, and he ran and told some friends that, hey, my life is at stake because the CIA has killed, John Kennedy. And so now, I'm fearful for my life because I know who these people are. And then what do you think happened? 6 months later, he dies by suicide, by a bullet, of course, behind the ear. I mean, come on. Maybe back in the 60s, they didn't realize what that meant, but now we do. So this is the statement on this document. This is Ramparts. It says Ramparts of June 1967, Volume 5, Number 12, pages 28 through 29. And this is what it says. It says, the day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, he confided, and he was afraid for his life. and probably would have to leave the country. Less than 6 months later, of course, Underhill was found, shot to death in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it a suicide. And it says here J. Garrett Underhill had been an intelligence agent during World War II and was a recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. A researcher and a writer on military affairs, he was on a first name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's what they call people who performed special assignments. And it said at one time he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of Inter Armco. I'm not really sure what that is, the arms broker that numbers among its customers the CIA. And so, and it says Klein's Sporting Goods of Chicago, from whence a mail order Carsano, I don't know, allegedly was purchased by Oswald. So there's a lot of interesting connections there. And I don't think any of us ever thought any differently. I mean, did we? But what I love is the files have been released. Now we have just more validation. To me, that's what it's always about. Validation is we've always thought and believed it was the CIA. I still think, I know people are blaming this on Israel. I still blame it on Lyndon B. Johnson. Now, maybe it had a lot to do with Israel, but I still think that Lyndon B. Johnson is the person who put that order through. How Lyndon B. Johnson, of course, had the power to do that in his role at the time, I don't know. But I think, the story is that Israel wanted to have nuclear weapons. John Kennedy would not allow Israel to have nuclear weapons. And so Lyndon B. Johnson put out the order for the hit on John Kennedy. And then, of course, he agreed to allow Israel to have nuclear weapons. Now, I don't think Israel was directly involved in Kennedy's assassination. I think that Lyndon Johnson just had his own agenda. I think that is when everything changed, for the United States. And J. Van Braun, Israel will not be destroyed. No, I don't think that, in my opinion anyway, that Israel has a direct involvement in John Kennedy's assassination. Now, there will be people who disagree with me. Some of you, or maybe a lot of you, disagree with me. But I think that this was just a CIA operation. I think it goes so much further. Then we have the Committee of 300, and a lot of people believe that was established right around the same time. And I have always believed that John Kennedy was our last true president, that ever since that time, some people will say it started before him, but ever since that time, every president we've had has been a puppet. And then you've got to ask, well, if they're all puppets, well, who put the puppets into place? And, when I refer to the Democrat Party as the Democrat regime, I'm not doing that just as an insult. I'm doing that because it really is a regime. This regime has ran our country for decades, maybe further back than John Kennedy. And I call it a regime with a true purpose, just like we have the Ba'ath regime, which of course Assad is part of, Saddam Hussein was part of. There are regimes that run different countries. And in our country, the Democrat Party is not just a political party. They truly are a regime. They are a group of people who have been in power in this country for quite some time, and they will do anything to make sure they remain in power. And the folks running the show, some refer to them to the deep state, some to the Committee of 300. There's a lot of different terms for what this regime is, but there's no question that, in my mind anyway, that every single president since Kennedy, maybe before Kennedy, was just a puppet, except for Donald Trump. And that is why they have fought so hard against him, because he is not part of their regime. They staged a coup against him in 2020. They staged a coup against him, quite honestly, in 2016. They just didn't try hard enough. They underestimated us, the American people, that we rose up against them because we had to deal with Obama, for 8 years. And that all taught us that, hey, we've got to make change in this country. We saw what the CIA was doing under Obama. The CIA, what we're learning out of these JFK files is what we always thought was true, that they are their own separate entity. They operate autonomously from the United States government. They're not, I always thought of the CIA as like a branch of the government, but they're really not. They are their own entity, and they are ran by this Committee of 300. And if you're not sure what the Committee of 300 is, you can, certainly read up on that. I can give you, a little information on what the Committee of 300 is, and it's something that I think that we really need to wake up and we have to start paying attention to, because these people these people are running our country, and these people will stop at nothing to get rid of Donald Trump. And that's what the JFK files for me are all about. It's proof that this committee of 300 exists, that they control the CIA, that the CIA is an autonomous government within itself, where they have a military branch, they have executive branches, they carry out operation unbeknownst to the United States government or the United States president. They operate completely on their own. And I feel that anything we do, like the government we see under Joe Biden, just as an example, is just a front for the true deep state, the true folks that are running this country that operate the CIA. And so, the Committee of 300, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about them. Their goal is the depopulation, of course, of the United States, or really of the world. And their conditions. Now they were brought into effect for these purposes: one, to create a one world government and one unit monetary system. Think about that: under permanent, non-elected, hereditary oligarchs who self-elect. Think about that: self-elect. They self-elect from among their numbers, it says, in the form of a feudal system that was in the Middle Ages. And they've been around for a very long time, a very long time. And in this one world entity, the population will be limited by restrictions on the number of children per family, diseases, wars, famine, until 1 billion people who are useful to the ruling class in these areas will be allowed to survive. That might sound crazy, but if you think about it, that's exactly what's playing out before our eyes. And this is not me attacking gay people by any means, or trans people, or anyone else. Not, but there are countries like Russia who think of the LGBTQ movement, that organization, to be a terror organization, because they feel that they are depopulating Russia, so they don't allow the group to operate in Russia. Russia allows people to be gay or trans or whatever they want to be. They just can't have this organization running and funding different programs. And again, I support gay rights. I actually do. I might sound liberal for saying that, but I do. But what I don't support is that these ideals that you try to convince children to become trans or to become gay or whatever means to not have children. And that's really what it's all about, is they want these children to grow up and not have children. It's part of the depopulation. You guys might think I'm crazy for saying these things, but trust me, I'm not the only one saying it. They're not going to hear a lot of that reported on the media, but it is part of the depopulation. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to wither us down through disease, through these different crazy viruses, through bioweapons, through wars, to where there's only 1 billion people left, and that billion people are going to be the worker bees. Trust me, we're almost there already. And then the worker bees are the ones who are doing exactly what we did under Joe Biden. And where we go out, we work, we're trying to help and support our families, but in the end, we're giving 73 cents of every dollar back to this Committee of 300, back to these same people who fund all these programs that want to destroy us. And don't tell me that Joe Biden cares about gay rights, or that Elizabeth Warren cares about gay rights, or that Nancy Pelosi cares about gay rights. These people don't care about gay rights. Don't tell me that these people care about the Black community, because they don't. Look at what abortion has done. Abortion, by the way, is a Democrat program. Look what abortion has done to the Black community. There's 460 something thousand abortions every year. The vast majority of these abortions come from within the Black community. And I'm not downing them. I'm supporting them, because I wish they would rise up and realize that the Democrats are hurting them. They're hurting them. They're not helping them. They're hurting them. And it's all about depopulation. And it sounds like it may be a crazy thing to say, but it's absolutely true. Look, when you can, look into the Party of 300, the Committee of 300, and you'll read some crazy stuff. And I absolutely do believe it's true. I think they're trying to depopulate us through any means necessary, whether that's disease, poisoning our food, poisoning our water, poisoning our soil, anything they can, because these things don't affect them. They absolutely don't affect them. They'll print out their little fake steaks, cellular-based meat. They'll eat their crickets and worms. They don't care about us at all, not at all. and really it's not about that. It's about you eating the printed out steaks, you eating the crickets and worms while they all live high on the hog, as some would say. So nothing that affects us affects these people. They're living in their own world out there, a world, far from us and far from anything we're involved in. But, we serve a purpose, we work. They dangle little carrots out in front of us that we want to take care of our families and we want to live in nice houses and drive nice cars and we'll work harder so that we can have a nice house and we can have a nice car. We can pay these, outrageous prices to send our children to college. And then in the meantime, 73 cents of every dollar you make is just going back to these people to line their own pockets. And part of their goal is to destroy the middle class. And you can see that happening around you every single day. They are destroying the middle class. Look what happened during COVID times. They're trying to push, they're trying to make a very big separation, a redistribution of wealth to where they close all of your local community shops. You can only shop at the big box, the big conglomerates. And then you're spending what's left of your money after they've taken, most of it towards taxes. And that money just goes up to the top. And they say trickle down, but it's not even trickling down anymore. It's just not coming down at all. It goes up to the top. They're pushing, they're separating themselves by the top 1% of earners. And these are not even the people you and I know. I know a lot of very wealthy people, and these people are not included in that top 1%. We're talking about, again, this committee of 300, they're in the top 1%. And they are not the people you and I know, the wealthy people in our communities. They're not part of this group. And this part of the group, it's not just here in the United States, it's across the world. And that's why we're seeing these same policies. It's not just here in the United States. These same policies are taking place all over. Look at the protests, the people finally rising up because they're opening their eyes to what we Americans are doing with the Department of Government Efficiency, with DOGE and all the fraud we're uncovering. People are saying, gosh, I feel like that's been happening in my own country for a really long time. Why? Because their leaders are also part of this committee of 300. They only want to destroy themselves from within. So it's happening, and it's happening in a very large scale. Joe Fry, good morning. Israel works with the deep state. I think the leaders of all countries work with the deep state. It's not about the people. It's not about the Israelis. It's not about the Americans. It's not about the British. It's not about the French or the Italian or the Irish. It's not about any of the people. It's not the people of the country. It's certainly not about the Iranians or the Yemenis or even the Palestinians. It's not about the people. We're all just pawns in the big game. None of this is about us. This is all about the same thing. It's all about the folks at the top, this committee of 300, the deep state, whatever you want to call these people, the people at the top. And, this is kind of where Obama comes in. I've told you guys before that there's a lot of talk out there about Obama. We always say, well, where did he come from? And I'm not going to get into that discussion right now, but that he was at the top of this CIA operation and part of this committee of 300. And he was one of their deep state operatives. And allegedly his deep state name was Renegade. And this committee of 300, a separate CIA government that's, being ran in the shadows, they appointed him, not just to be president, but they had appointed him to be a major member in the CIA operations. Is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. I have no way of knowing, but I think it is true. I think there's a lot of things going on that we're learning, and we're going to continue to learn more. Things that a lot of people thought were conspiracy talk, crazy talk, we're going to find out is true. Absolutely true. So that it's about my time is about up. Not much more we can talk about today. We got to watch what's going on with these judges. This Judge Boasberg, my goodness, Judge Boasberg, he is the one that put a stop to the Enemies Act that Donald Trump was, we're attempting to remove all of these Tren de Aragua gang members. And this judge thinks he's above the president of the United States. And so therefore he has made another demand. He demanded, as of yesterday, as you know, at noon yesterday, that the Trump administration had to give a sworn testimony of exactly when those flights left. He's trying to make sure they didn't violate his order. Because, what happens? Is he going to try to impeach Trump if Trump violated that order? My coffee cup just moved. It scared me. And so I don't know, what's going on with this guy. But anyway, Robert Cerna, he's the acting field officer, director of ICE. And he did give sworn testimony, and his sworn testimony said that 2 of the 3 planes did leave prior to the judge's order. The 3rd plane left after the judge's order. However, those people on that plane all had orders of deportation. They were not necessarily members of Tren de Aragua. They were just people who were in our country illegally, who were criminals, and a judge had ordered those people to be removed. So they don't fall under the Enemies Act, and so therefore they should be allowed to leave. It had nothing to do with the judge's order. Well, Trump's administration, his attorneys argued back that, for the sake of national security, we shouldn't have to provide this information to you, Judge Boasberg. These are matters of the state. These are matters of national security. Your office, you have no right to ask us for further information. And what came out of this is that Tren de Aragua, because of course Judge Boasberg wanted to know exactly how many Tren de Aragua gang members are still here in the country. And to me, this would, I think, violate national security. We shouldn't be talking about these numbers publicly, but that's exactly what has happened. We learned that there are 54 members of Tren de Aragua in ICE custody right now, waiting to be deported. There are 172 Tren de Aragua members still in the United States being watched, not in custody, but under surveillance by ICE and other departments. 32 Tren de Aragua members are currently being held in different types of jail forms, awaiting to be taken into custody by ICE. So they've supplied this information to Judge Boasberg. And now Boasberg has said, you know what? He wants more information. And now he demands that the Trump administration give another sworn testimony by today at noon on additional details. This guy is never going to stop. He's never going to stop. We have got to create some type of legislator to keep these judges in place. And it's not because I don't respect the authority of a judge. If the authority of the judge was saying, well, this is what's best for the country, I'm impartial, I'm non-biased, this is just how the law works, that's a different story. But we know that these judges were placed into these positions by Democrats, and we know their entire goal, their entire playbook is to stop all of Trump's orders in the court system, to tie them all up in the court, making his 4-year term completely ineffective. So because they're part of this thing, to me, that would be a coup. Maybe it would be treason. I don't know which legal term it would be. But either way, we have to stand up against these judges and make sure that they are not able to tie up all of Donald Trump's orders in court over the next 4 years to where we accomplish absolutely nothing. That's their goal. And it would be, again, it would be completely different if the judge was just doing his job. If he's just doing his job, being a judge, that's a different story. But that's not what's happening here. They are intentionally impeding a presidential order just because they don't like Donald Trump. That's all it's about. They just don't like Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with anything else. And so we're gonna keep an eye on that situation. We're gonna see what's going on in the coming days. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. I had to think for a second. I'm like, I don't even know what day it is. I've been very busy. I got to head off to work right now, but I do hope you guys all have a really great day. We're going to be talking about a lot more in the coming days. So much more going on. So much more probably to come out of those John Kennedy files. And one thing I didn't even mention is JFK Jr., John Kennedy Jr., and how he was running for Congress, and how it's been a rumor for a long time that he said that Joe Biden was a traitor. And people say, oh, that's not true. If you ask AI, it'll still tell you that's not true, but yet it's in the documents. So another validation of something we've heard for years comes out to be absolutely true. It's in the documentation. And of course, also JFK Jr. going to run for Congress against Hillary Clinton. You can make your own assessments there, but we'll pick that up back again tomorrow. Hope you guys have a really great day. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap, and I look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow. Be careful. More severe weather in our future. Be careful out there, guys. Thank you. Have a great day.